Welcome, world language teachers. We are here with video number 2 in our exciting series that is made just for you. It's made for beginners or people who are really looking to dive deep into their practice of proficiency-centered teaching rooted in comprehensible input. So today we're going to be talking about the basics, the foundational stuff. This question gets asked all the time, or maybe you've always wanted to ask it, but you've been a little shy. And that is, what really even is comprehensible input? What even is proficiency? And what does that mean? Because those words get used a lot right now in the world language teaching space. So today I have for you, we're going to cut it off right at 30 minutes. So count me on it, 30 minutes of exactly what this term means, what it means now in the world language teaching space, and why it's so important to understand what it is. So as we get started with class today, do me a huge favor and let me know, because I'm just curious. I just want to know. Number one, where are you watching from? Let me know what city you're in. Put it in the comments below. And number two, what's your go-to beverage when you're like hanging out and doing your planning? Because for me, I always have a LaCroix or some sort of fizzy, always. We call them fizzy waters in my house. I don't know why. It's a dumb name, but we do. So let me know, what are you hanging out with right now? If it's a margarita, no judgment. It's all good. So, hey, if you're new to this whole space, my name is Devin, and I am the teacher behind La Libre Language Learning. So let's go ahead and get started so that we can get into this goodness, because I want to make sure that we stick to 30 minutes. Boom, let's go. All right, ready? Here we go. Gonna share my screen. Gonna start this party scene. I'm good at this. I can do this. Oh, here it is. You think I'd be a lot faster at this because I do this every Wednesday. So you should come join me every Wednesday because I do this a lot. And here we go. Oh, we're so ready. Oh, we're so ready to go. Yes, we are. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, y'all. So maybe you've been here before and you've been to one of my weekly classes. We hang out, we chat, we talk about all things world language, and they are always and forever free every Wednesday. And you can catch them right now on Facebook Live, or you can watch them wherever you're watching this right now. Maybe it's on YouTube. Hey, if you're watching on the replay, let me know, future friends. And we're going to be starting today with a Start with CI series that we started last week, which was really cool. All about like, what do you do if your department's not really on board with CI? Been there. So what does that look like and how can you handle that? Today, we're going to talk about what is this term? Two of them really. What is CI? What is comprehensible input? And what is proficiency? But first, I want you to remember, grab the schedule below because I have a lot of classes for you. This is a 12-part series. Some of them will be 15 minutes, some of them will be 30 minutes. So make sure you don't miss any. And of course, hang out with me in all of these channels below. I hang out in all those places. And if you have any questions about this class afterwards, shoot me an email at devin@lalibrelanguagelearning.com and we can hang out there. But in this class today, that's what I was going to say. Make sure that you grab the schedule that's below here, linked below here. If you're watching live on Facebook, hi, y'all. I'm going to jump into the comments here. We have it in the discussion section, and I'm going to post it for you again. Don't listen to me. We are going to post it again at the end of class so that you can easily grab it as well. Let me know if you need it. Okay, let's jump in. Ready? Here we go. You already saw that part. Let's get to this. Boom. Set your intention and action plan. So before we jump into the meaty part of our content, it's always really fun to learn things. It is. It's so much fun to learn through things, especially about CI, because CI rocks. It's so awesome. It's so awesome. But I want you to think about, what are you going to get out of our time together? Look at me. Look at me in the eyes. Put your drink down and let me know. What are you going to get out of our time together? Because it's important that you have an intention for what you want to get out of this class. And then moving forward, what you're going to do with that knowledge. So I'm going to ask you at the end of this class, what are you going to do based off what you learned today? What are you going to do this week, even if it's only one thing, using something called the 2% rule, which is going to become your new motto if you hang out with me more. We'll learn more about that later. But let's get started with the first term, and that is Da, 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 da. Proficiency, which is honestly the real term. Proficiency is really just measuring what level of language you can perform at. Really, that's really what proficiency means. That's what it means in the world language space. And what it means right now in world language teaching, if you are a teacher, is that you use a teaching method, methodology, style, whatever, that focuses in on increasing a student's proficiency level. What does that mean, though? According to Alyssa Villarreal from The Language Educator, which is something published by ACTFL, it means that you're focusing on what students can do with the language. This is something that doesn't feel very different from what a world language class should be about, but it's actually a really crucial difference, because if you look at many assessments that probably you've been given over the years as a world language student, as to where you got to be at this point, a lot of your measurements were probably based on what you knew about language, and most likely even language features. So what we're focusing in on today is, if you're focusing on proficiency, proficiency style teaching, proficiency oriented instruction, anything that has to do with world language and proficiency, means that you're focusing in on what students can actually do with the language. Can they perform a communicative task? Yes or no, somewhere in between some parts of it. That's proficiency style teaching. And any kind of method that gets you there counts. That's the beauty of it. Now, why are we focusing in on proficiency? Why is this such a hot topic right now? And the reason is because there's many reasons, but one I want to just hone in on for you here, because I think this is a really good example, is that there was a 2010 report done from students at UNC Chapel Hill who are not by any means like language majors, but these are advanced students, driven students going to UNC Chapel Hill, right? And many of them reported, after going through a high quality language program at UNC Chapel Hill, after 2 semesters of language, I still can't do anything with it. And this is, of course, coming from that age-old saying of like, I took 4 years of high school, college Spanish, insert language here, and I still don't know anything or can say anything with it. We've all heard that so many times. I felt that in my soul so many times with lots of language classes and programs. And ACTFL itself dug into this to see exactly what proficiency level language lovers were really at. That's us. And so Spanish majors in 2007, only 52% of Spanish majors are hitting advanced low, which is, of course, the measuring point that we're all supposed to be at if we are teachers. And that's also the recognized level of work level proficiency as named by ACTFL. So if only 50% of people who want to hit that goal are hitting it, something's wrong. So that's why we're focusing in on proficiency. What I'm showing you here today as well is a teeny tiny piece, a sneak peek of something that's part of my course program called Practical Proficiency, something that I teach my students. If you're a Practical Proficiency student, say hey. But this is part of one of the modules that I teach called Powerhouse Practice, where we really dive into comprehensible input. So you're getting like a tiny sneak peek of it here. And here is our goal in class today. If you are looking into comprehensible input, and don't worry, we're going to define that term next, or CI teaching methods, or you're looking at more how to make your practice more proficiency oriented, you've probably read articles about Stephen Krashen. You've probably read articles that mention that name a lot. You've probably read articles that mention CI a lot, blogs, resources, whatevs. Our goal today is that I'm going to assume that you've either read it or you have really easy access to it, because if you Google the term comprehensible input, it's like the first thing that comes up. You'll have 14 at least different articles, including 2 of mine, that talk about what the input hypothesis is. So in order to keep this class short, do yourself a favor. If you've never done it before, you've never learned about it before, just Google what the whole input hypothesis is based on Krashen. But this is really where a lot of these ideas come from. We're going to go beyond that today, and we're going to take you from a CI beginner to a CI intermediate. with some of our topics today, because a lot of stuff that you'll find, I know I found this frustration a lot, is that while I was trying to learn how to become a better instructor using comprehensible input, a lot of information is beginner level. So we're going to try and like take you a little bit into advanced beginner today. But that being said, I do understand that, you know, we're all starting from different places. So we're going to also understand why proficiency is important and why it's effective. And we're going to use research today, not stories. You have access to so many stories from my website and from many other creators' websites and from other teachers that you know and love. So we're going to look today at research, because I know that you don't have time to look at that stuff on your own. So I did it for you. So that's our goal today. So let's get into it. All right, so here's the first definition that we got here. Hi, y'all. Welcome to class. I see you coming in. Hi. So the first thing I asked at the beginning of class is let me know what city you are watching from. And also, let me know what your favorite drink is when you're hanging out and watching Facebook Lives. Mine is LaCroix, always. Or honestly, I don't really care about the brand, but I like fizzy waters. So let me know what yours is. All right, so we got our first definition on board here, which is input. Y'all know and love this one. Input is whatever language learners hear or see in a communicative context that they process for meaning. Pretty straightforward, right? That's input. So what is comprehensible input? Comprehensible input is whatever input language learners can understand. And many people also add the caveat is compelling and relevant. That's the piece that makes it comprehensible, because that's also the piece that makes it sink in. So that is the essential difference. The dog agrees. Don't mind her. We're just going to have to keep on trucking. Somebody might be at the door. All right, so read this one here. Every teacher uses CI. It's not a method. It's an essential ingredient in language acquisition. So let's use it intentionally. This means every teacher that you know, whether they identify as a CI teacher or not, because that's kind of a term now, right? Every teacher uses CI. It just depends on how much. Do they use it a lot? Do they use it a little bit? Do they use it intentionally? Is it accidental? Is it like kind of sprinkled in with what they're doing? So here's the difference. Comprehensible input is an essential catalyst, ingredient, whatever you want to call it, to language acquisition. Researchers will kind of bat around the idea depending on their findings, and we'll look at in a minute at why, as to exactly what extent this is needed. But everybody agrees that it's needed. It just depends on exactly what extent. Stephen Krashen thinks that it's the only thing that's needed, and it's by far the most important piece of language acquisition. So that's what makes him kind of like the poster boy of all this stuff, and, you know, all the books and stuff that he's written about it, you know, just those casual things. So let's use this intentionally. Now let's clarify some terms before we go on to the next thing here. What is CI in terms of how you hear it used in the world language space and in, you know, like trainings and things like this? CI, when you usually hear it abbreviated, is usually referring to people who use comprehensible input rich methods. But however, it's not really a method. It's more along the lines of, we believe that this is the essential ingredient in language, and we're going to focus in on this piece of it, and we're going to focus in on the communicative piece of class. That's the most important piece, not what students know about language features. So it's more like an identifier in terms of how that word is being used right now in your space. So if you say like, yeah, I'm starting to use CI, it means really when you say that to people like, oh, you're a teacher who believes in proficiency. You're a teacher who believes in comprehensible input rich methods. But do understand that like, that's kind of like, it's a calling card, but it's also a research term. So like, just make sure that you know that there's a difference between those two. I use the term CI all the time, and I identify as a CI teacher as well. I'm not a CI purist by any means. Like when I was still in the classroom, I do this full time now, but when I was still in the classroom, I use comprehensible input rich methods probably about 60% of the time. And I sprinkled in other things as well as more traditional practices in order to make sure that my life was in, I don't know if you could call it balance, but like trying to get towards making sure that I was going home on time every day. And I'm still a CI teacher. And so are you, no matter what stage you are at, if that's what you believe about class. And it has nothing to do with like what level of training you are, what kind of expert you are, or any of that jazz. Okay. Those things are important and will come on your journey later. But what that name really means, that whole like CI teacher thing, is all about just like what you believe about language teaching and what's important. Another important term for us is output. Output is whatever language learners use to communicate their ideas. So we're going to hold on to that term later. Okay. So here's where this becomes very important. Input-driven activities using comprehensible input, they create mental representation of language, which is, of course, essential in order to, like, you need a language map, you need a lexical map in your brain in order to create any kind of acquisition and be able to use that and pull that to create any kind of output. But that mental representation comes first. And then the next part that BVP says is that interaction is what develops communicative ability. So these two work in tandem. So think about that for a second. What does that say to us about instruction and what that looks like? Input-driven activities help your students figure out what the language looks like, how it feels, how it moves, how it works, and how to put it together in their heads. And then interaction develops that communicative ability. So it's like you need both. Okay, so I'm sure that many of you are familiar with Stephen Krashen's input hypothesis, which is, of course, based on mainly the idea that comprehensible input is the most essential piece of language acquisition, and that there's a strong difference between learning and acquisition, all that good stuff. And that also that input at the I+1 level will lead to acquisition. And you honestly don't even really need that much output in order for this to occur. All you need is high quality comprehensible input. Totally paraphrasing, look it up yourself. But I want you to know these criticisms because they're actually not really well publicized. But these are some things that we all need to know as we are diving into comprehensible input rich methods. That yes, those things are definitely heading in the right track, but Stephen Krashen is not the only researcher who's looked into comprehensible input. It is, and that research study was done like almost 40 or 50 years ago. So this has expanded far beyond that, and it's a much deeper and richer idea than that. So I want you to see beyond, and we're going to become advanced beginners today. Number one, it's untested. What this means is it's not empirically tested in classroom environments. And by the way that the theory is written, it honestly can't really be tested that well in classroom environments. Number two, it's kind of unclear. CI and learning versus acquisition is not very clearly defined or testable, which roots back to number one. Number three, the model is very simplistic, maybe too simplistic. And number four, learners. It diminishes the role of learners in your classroom. Maybe you've experienced this before when looking at this whole theory and the idea that where does the learner fit into all this? Because it sounds like they're just a bunch of absorbing sponges. So there are other people who have responded to this with, there's more to this. This is a great foundation, but there's more to this. Here is another theory that I would love for you to know about. You can find out more on his podcast, Bill Van Patten. It's Tea with BVP, and then the other one, I forget what it's called, but there's a second one too. There's tons of info about this. But this study, published in 2003 by Wong and BVP, is all about the theory of processing instruction, which builds on this idea of input being really essential, but then makes it a much richer idea. Here's something to give you something to munch on here. Learners will pay attention to meaning before they pay attention to grammar forms. And this was empirically studied in classrooms. And in order to make sense of forms and use them in context, learners need to be engaged in input. So they went further into figuring out like, why is input such that essential ingredient? And they said that in order to make sense of forms and use them in context, they need to be engaged in the input. It can't just be something that is given to them. They need to be engaged and working with it. And the third thing that they found is that mechanical practice really isn't useful in language acquisition. They did a bunch of studies on this in different classroom environments to come to this finding. And if you look up this study, I think you'll find some really cool stuff on it. So check out processing instruction if you're interested on this. We got to move right along in here because I want you to see more of these as well. Let's see what time it is and what we got here. Okay, we're doing good. We're doing good. Here's another one that builds on this, that has a lot of interesting ideas and things to add to this. First, we have the long interaction hypothesis, or actually, this is number 2. With the interaction hypothesis, this comes from a paper called How to Make Input Comprehensible. Good read, right? This was done in 83, around the same time as Crashing. And this has 3 essential pieces. Number 1 is simplify. In order to make your input comprehensible, use familiar structures, use vocabulary along the lines of context and things that students can grab onto, s'accrocher à, like my French teacher used to always say, and get themselves working with it really fast so that they can latch on to meaning. The second thing is familiar features. And that can be both linguistic and extra linguistic, which just means things like, oh, find the typo. Can you find the typo? You can tell me where it is. The structures as well as gestures. So if you're looking at, I used to experience this all the time as an early learner, my L3 of Spanish. So I came from a French L2 background learning Spanish. I could look at a Spanish sentence on like a board or in a book, and I wouldn't know what it meant, but I'd be able to see like, oh my gosh, the structure is so similar. And from the structure being similar, be like, I think they're talking about a boy's face. I think, I don't know, but I think it's just like the way that it looks and the fact that that word is there, like the whole idea of the structures being similar, like whatever that you can pull that's the same as an L1 or an L2, it all helps with familiar features. And that's what it means by structures being the same. Gestures as well, like por favor, like that obviously means, like, it doesn't mean please in that sense. It means like, oh, come on. And that's how you can use that to make that more comprehensible. And then the third one is everybody's favorite because we as teachers already know how to do this so well. And that's modify. Modify meaning like the interactional structure of the conversation. It's like what we do to like make it student friendly or teacher friendly. And that's when you repeat things. You don't say things slower because that's actually not what students need, but you put pauses in helpful places so students can process. That was like my favorite trick that I learned from that podcast, was the art of pausing instead of making things slower. This was my favorite though. This one's my favorite. And this is the output hypothesis. This comes from Swain in 1995. Okay. This is where things get juicy. So she believes that with Krashen's input hypothesis, that input alone is actually not sufficient. So she disagrees with that proponent from that hypothesis, and that learners need opportunity for output in order for their language abilities to grow. So what does she mean by that? She found that students will achieve higher levels of competence when given the opportunity to speak. And this is where it came from. So she did a lot of studies in classrooms in Canada with immersive comprehensible input style classrooms where students were receiving input, more input all the time. And what she found with a lot of those classrooms is that they had a lot of deficiencies in linguistic competence, meaning that they understood a lot of what was going on, but they weren't able to verbalize it. And sociocultural competence, meaning that because they were missing that interactional component, they were missing a lot of those essential language pieces. So what this whole idea of comprehensible input style teaching can leave behind, if you're not looking at all of the ideas that are out there, like this one, I think really brings it all home with these 3 things here, is that if you're only looking at the language that occurs in your classroom, you're missing the other essential pieces of language, because there's actually many features and facets embedded in language. It's not just the words. It's certainly not just the structure. There's actually body language. There's embedded culture. There's embedded sociocultural content and all different kinds of competencies. And I love all that stuff because I'm really, really into SLA. So my favorite. So let's get into some more SLA with this. Here are some more features of Swain's output hypothesis. Number one piece of this is that with output, so when you're thinking output activities, what are we talking about? We're talking about opportunities for your students to speak, opportunities for your students to write, imperfectly, by the way, just getting it all out there. Number one is that it facilitates the whole process of second language acquisition. It moves the train along because it helps learners figure out the gap between what do they want to say, what can they actually say? So it helps facilitate that process. Number two is that it helps students try new rules. It provides them a way to try things out and maybe modify them accordingly, especially if they're writing. It gives them some time and space to do that. And then number three, reflection. How many times have you been trying to get a sentence out in your L2 and you've realized as you were doing this, you're like, I need to, bookmark. I need to go back and look up that word, or I need to figure out like what that thing is, or like, I just don't remember that past participle. It helps people actively reflect on what they do know about the target language system and where their gaps are. Okay, now we are coming to the end here. So I want to make sure we wrap up real quick. Are you ready? Number one, we learned today what comprehensible input actually is, and a lot of ideas to build on what you've probably previously learned about comprehensible input teaching strategies and methods. And this is why the whole idea matters. We also learned about proficiency, and that the focus on proficiency really means what your students can actually do with the language. And here is the number one reason why it matters. Number one, the ability to verbalize a language rule with your students does not mean your learner can use it in communication. Just because they know what the rule is doesn't mean that they can use it. That's why proficiency really matters. Here's why CI matters, which is comprehensible input. And this is from a textbook that probably a lot of you have, from Shrum and Gleason, saying that research across language with a variety of grammatical structures has indicated that instructional strategies that includes input are successful in helping learners build linguistic systems, mental representation. That's why CI matters, because that input creates those beautiful lexical banks, all that good stuff in there, all the words. Number three, here's why understanding comprehensible input really matters, though, for you as a teacher. I like the output hypothesis the best because it really helped me to expand my definition of what CI teaching looks like. And that is, from the output hypothesis, we've learned that not only do we need to provide high quality input, but we also need to provide meaningful, purposeful, and motivational output opportunities so that students can consolidate what they know and what they still need to learn. That's why understanding CI matters. So boom, we did it. We're at about 30 minutes here. So let's wrap this bad boy up. Let's get at them. Put in the comments below. Reflexiona, réfléchissez. What's one thing that you're going to do this week? Based on what you learned today about what comprehensible input is, what the whole tag of being a CI teacher means when you say that to another teacher in the world language teaching space. What's one thing that you're going to do this week based on what proficiency means? And I want you to base this on the idea of the 2% rule. 2% rule is the idea that we often so much when we're trying to create a new habit or move towards a new direction, something like proficiency-oriented instruction, we focus on like big leaps, huge goals. But what actually happens is that that leads to a lot of like big hills and then huge slopes. When you make this like big energetic leap forward, and I want to caution you against doing that, especially at the beginning of the year, because I know you're so excited to try something because you've been hearing about it. You went to the conference, Practical and Comprehensible, and you're friggin' stoked to do really awesome things. You watch this training, and you're like, dang, like that's some good research. I'm like ready to look into those articles and do stuff. But if you're 20% better for 2 weeks, you're going to fall down a slope and burn out. And then you're probably not going to touch it again for a few weeks because you'll be tired and life will get busy, all that good stuff. But you can avoid that by deciding to be 2% better every week instead. I'm going to do like one tiny detail, one tiny little thing to make me better each week. And by the end of the school year, 2% better adds up to you're 40% better than when you started. That's exciting. That's way more exciting. So I want you to think of what's one tiny thing that you can do this week. Put it in the comments below if you want to share. Now, here's something that you definitely need to share. You ready? What's something that you're already doing that's proficiency centered? Where's your 2% at? Celebrate your progress. What are you doing right now that you are already stoked to be doing that you know is CI centered and that you love it and you're proud of it and you want to share it? It could be something small. It could be something like, I started greeting my students at the door with something that's in the target language every day, and I'm really excited about it. That's very proficiency oriented. That's really cool. Celebrate your progress. Tell us what you've been doing. All right. And while you're writing that below, I want to see them. Bring them in, people. While you're doing that below, I want you to make sure that you do this before we leave today. Number one, I'm going to put it in the comments below after this class. I know it's in the discussion somewhere, but that can be kind of hard to find. But I'll drop the schedule for you so that you can see what the whole Start with CI series looks like. But just so that it's easy for you to remember, same time, same place every week for a long time, up until November. Every Wednesday at 4 p.m. EST, come hang out with me. But you can download the whole schedule so that you can save it to your calendar and you can bookmark the classes that you want to see and see what juicy things I have coming up next for you. And the next thing that I have for you is make sure that you go to this web address right here, lalibrelanguageLearning.com/toolkit. And you'll be able to download this free roadmap, this free toolkit that shows you if you're trying to move towards proficiency and you have no idea where to start, or maybe you're like juggling a million different ideas in the air and you're like, this is too much. Sequence is everything when it comes to proficiency and also having a life. So if you would like to have both, if you'd like to have a proficiency oriented classroom and a life, do it in order. Here are the 9 steps to proficiency in a roadmap. I'll show you exactly which ones to tackle first. Makes it a lot easier. Totally free download. Go to that address to find it. Again, it's lalibrelanguagelearning.com/toolkit. Get you set up. And the last thing is, tell me what you thought of this class. Let's come hang out on social. I'm here on Facebook. My favorite place to hang out is on Instagram. And you can find me everywhere at La Libre Language Learning. But y'all, we did it. I think we did it on time. Oh, we did pretty good. Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did. Thank you so much for being here with me in this class. And I cannot wait to see you for the next one. Are you ready for this one? This is going to be good. Is CI a fad? You let me know what you think. But that's what we're going to be talking about next week. So join me same time, same place. And until then, bye y'all. Enjoy your bubbly drinks. I will see y'all later. Have a great time planning all of your proficiency-oriented instruction this week. And let me know what you're planning on social or on here in the comments. And I'll catch you later.